So the next competency that we're going to look at is competency 3. Hopefully you've had a chance to look at competency 2. There are many details available for you on the presentation that has been uploaded to Blackboard, so please make sure that you check that out. So competency 3 is looking at your supporting material and the body of your speech. So that includes having good information, the main points are clear and elaborated, that you have evidence that is relevant and sourced, evidence that is smoothly introduced, and your visual aid is also graded in this portion of the speech. So looking first at good information or the content. So this is the research that you have done for your speech. And yes, I am expecting you to do research for this speech. So probably 3 to 5 different resources depending on what your speech topic is. The information that you use must be from a reliable source, and it's really hard for me to say any definites about like, yes, this type of resource will always work, and no, this type of resource will never work. So it completely depends on the topic that you are using. So I don't want to say something like you can never use a personal blog for a relevant resource, because it could be that whoever wrote the blog is an expert in the field. So you just need to be very careful about the resources that you're using and ensure that they are relevant and that they are written by people who are experts in the field. So what you wouldn't want to do is find somebody who has a personal blog and they are writing about let's say, I don't know, some topic like ice fishing in Alaska, because I've been using that example a lot. And this person lives in Arizona and has never seen snow before and has never been ice fishing. Obviously, that person would not be a very reliable source. So that's a really obvious one, but you do need to be careful to make sure that the resources that you are using are appropriate for your topic. You need to make sure that you are citing your sources appropriately. So this is jumping to the evidence being smoothly introduced. So during your speech, you would say things like, according to such and such website, this is the information that was found there. You don't want to read your citation as if it were from a paper. So reading off the fact and then saying something like parentheses, last name, date, page number, end parentheses. That's awkward and it doesn't sound very good. So you just want to make sure that you are introducing your information in a way that makes sense. And I will be uploading quite a few videos for you to watch so you can hear some examples of that from other students speaking. So examples of resources that you may use for your speech could be pamphlets, websites, magazines, journal articles, books, interviews, YouTube videos, basically anything you can get your hands on that has been written or produced by someone who is an expert in the field. Documentaries, movies, whatever the case may be. Again, you need to verbally cite those within your speech, and then you'll need to have a written works cited page in APA format, which you will turn in when your speech is due. For your main points, these should be the same main points that you introduce in the introduction of your speech, and you are going to go into more detail about each of those main topics in the body of your speech. So thinking about a 5-minute speech, usually your introduction is a minute to a minute and a half, usually right around a minute. And then let's say you have 3 main topics. Each of those would get a little over a minute, and then your conclusion is usually around 30 seconds. They're pretty short. So you just need to make sure that each of your main areas that you're covering in your speech gets an equal-ish amount of time. So what I don't want to see is one of your topics gets 15 seconds, another one gets 2 minutes, and then the last one gets a minute and a half, or whatever the case may be. It should be about equal for each one. That shows me that you have thought about how you want to organize. You've done research to beef up each of those individual topics that you are presenting to the class. Your evidence needs to be relevant, so you should be using sources that are up to date and have the most current information. And of course, they need to be relevant to the topic that you are speaking about. Don't just find random facts on the internet and throw them into your speech. They need to be adding to your speech and making it a more substantial piece of information. Finally, your visual aid will be graded in this competency. You are welcome to use any kind of visual aid that you would like. The more creative you can get, the better. You are welcome to do a PowerPoint presentation, but make sure that that is actually something that enhances your presentation. And if you choose to do a PowerPoint, make sure you read up on how to do PowerPoints well, because you don't want to do a bunch of written out information on your PowerPoint and then speaking with it. People are going to be distracted by how much writing is on your PowerPoint, and they won't be giving you their full attention. Other things that I've seen for visual aid speeches that have been really meaningful have been pamphlets, distributed different types of handouts with graphs and different information on it. You can also use like actual physical things as your visual aid. So for example, with the ice fishing, maybe you would have fishing poles that you would show to the class and show how they work, or whatever the case may be that works for you. For some topics, the PowerPoint is the best option, and go for it if that's what you want to use. You certainly won't be docked points if you choose to use a PowerPoint, but I am going to encourage you to think outside the box when it comes to the visual aid. So again, for competency 3, this is where you're being graded on the research that you do for your speech, if the information is relevant, if it's from a good resource, if you have introduced it and cited it correctly, and then also your visual aid.